What's up, guys? I wanted to make a video about Candito's linear program, my thoughts on it, and my experiences. I've been running Candito's linear program since summer of 2014. Along the way, I've deviated from it a little bit, changed things here and there, not done exactly what Candito has laid out. So I wanted to talk about the changes I've made, changes I'll probably make in the future, how I feel it can be optimized for powerlifting, and yeah, hopefully it's a helpful video for anyone running Candito's linear program. Just a disclaimer, I am not Johnny Candito. These changes that I've made are not approved by Johnny Candito. They are not necessarily the optimal changes. They are just changes that I feel make the program better, or just how to prolong progress on the program. So before we talk more about Candito's linear program, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Texas method. And you might be thinking, what does the Texas method have to do with Candito's linear program? They are pretty different programs. But looking at the Texas method and analyzing what you do in the Texas method to prolong progress when progress stalls, I think is a great way to learn how to alter other programs. It's a very simple way to look at it, and understanding what happens on the Texas method is a great way to understand what's happening on other programs. So, without further ado, let's see, can you see this? So I have written out here the Texas method just for squatting. So as you can see, there is a volume day, where you do a 5x5 squat, a recovery day, where you do 2 to 3x5 squat at 80% of the weight you did on volume day, and then an intensity day, where you do a 1x5 squat PR. So, the idea is the volume day is giving you the stimulus to hit a PR on intensity day. The recovery day is an active recovery day, just so you can dissipate any fatigue that you have from Monday by the time Friday rolls around. If I didn't make it clear, this is a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So, for example, let's say I'm a lifter, I do 405 pounds on squat for a 5x5 on volume day, and then I hit 440 for a 1x5 on intensity day. Next week, I'll do 410 for a 5x5 on squat, and hopefully I'll hit 5 pounds more than what I did last time on intensity day. I think I said 440, so then 445 for a 1x5. And hopefully we can continue this for a long time. But eventually progress will stall. And once that happens, we need to figure out what is causing it to stall. So, if you are hitting PRs on volume day, but you're not hitting PRs on intensity day anymore, and you're not fatigued on intensity day, that means you're not doing enough volume on volume day. So once you figure that out, there's a few things you can do. A really simple thing you can do is you can add one set to volume day and turn it from a 5x5 into a 6x5. So now you have one extra set of volume. I hope you can see that that's a 6. I did it terribly. Another option is you can keep it at a 5x5 and perhaps add a drop set at the end, or a back off set rather. So keep it as a 5x5 and then add maybe a drop set of 8. So a 1x8 after all that. So you have your 5x5 and then a 1x8. The idea is you only want to make a small change at a time. You don't want to make big changes. You just want to make the least change that you have to make to keep progress going. So those are two options right there. Another one is, instead of a 5x5 squat, you can now change it to an 8x3 squat. That's 8 sets of 3. Okay? So now you're actually doing one less rep. You're doing 24 reps now as opposed to the 25 before. But because they're sets of 3, the higher intensity could spur progress for longer. So hopefully some change that you make in this case will allow you to keep making changes, keep making progress on intensity day. Another scenario is you stall on your intensity day because you're sore. What you're doing on volume day is too much. So, in that case, maybe you want to drop it to a 4x5 squat. That might be the change you need in this case, because you're sore on intensity day, so you need to make sure that you're not fatigued. You might even need to go as low as a 3x5 squat. I have a friend who's running the Texas method who did go to a 3x5 squat and now is building his way back up in volume. So those are just a few things that you can change on the Texas method to continue progress on intensity day. There are a ton of more things you could do, and they're heavily detailed in Practical Programming for Strength Training, and I highly recommend you buy the book. It's a great resource. Okay, so let's actually talk about Candito's linear program, which I have written up right here. Specifically, this is the strength control variation. It's an upper-lower split. You have a lower strength day, which is 3 sets of 6 on squat, followed by 2 sets of 6 on deadlift, an upper strength day where you have 3 sets of 6 on bench press, 3 sets of 6 on a row variation, 1 set of 6 on a shoulder movement, and 1 set of 6 on a vertical pull. Followed by a lower control day where you do 6 sets of 4 on the pause squat and 3 sets of 4 on the pause deadlift. Followed by the upper control day, which is a 6 sets of 4 on the spoto press, 6 sets of 4 on a pause row, 1 set of 10 on a shoulder exercise, and 1 set of 10 on a vertical pull. And the progression is 0 to 10 pounds per week on the competition lifts. Normally, I wouldn't recommend anybody change programs that they haven't even started yet, really. But for Candito's linear program, I think as a powerlifter, there are some changes you can make right away, specifically to the upper days. On the first upper day of the week, the upper strength day, he has you doing 3 sets of 6 with touch and go bench, and I immediately think that that should be replaced with pause bench, because on the entire program, there is no pause bench programmed in. So you can either replace the bench on the first day, which is the strength day, or the control day. And you might think, well, why not just put it on the control day and replace spoto press with it? But I don't think that is the best way to do it. I think putting it on the strength day is better because the strength days are where you have your competition movements. They're what you are trying to train. Those are the lifts that you're trying to test and progress over time. You shouldn't be using pause bench as a control variation to assist your touch and go bench. You should be using something on the control day to assist your pause bench, because that is, at the end of the day, as a power lifter, your number one priority. So that is the first change I would make. I would change the bench on the heavy day to pause bench. And so immediately that begs the question, what do you do on the control day then? Because you can't be doing spoto press. I mean, you could be doing spoto press, but the control day movement is now supposed to assist the pause bench. And I think there are better options to assist the pause bench than the spoto press. So I would change the benching movement on the control day to 3 count pause bench. So you would have a quick pause bench on the first day of the week, and then on the second upper day of the week, you would have 6 sets of 4 with 3 count pause bench. And I think that's immediately a better change to make. Additionally, I think the 1 set of 6 on shoulders and the 1 set of 10 on shoulders, respectively, on the 2 upper days can immediately be changed to 2 sets of 6 and 2 sets of 10. I don't think 1 set of 6 or 1 set of 10 is enough volume on shoulders, and while it's not a competition movement and you don't need to be putting a lot of volume into it, I think immediately that's what you should change. I believe Candito himself has said that in future updates to the program he will be adding sets to the shoulder movement, and I think that's a good idea. So if you add to the shoulder movement, I think you should also add a set to the vertical pulling movement to balance it out. So here I have written down the changes that I would make to the upper days, and I have the changes specifically marked in red. So now you've been running Candito's linear program, let's say, for a while, and things have been going well, but now you're stalling on the bench press. In fact, you're stalling on the bench press, your shoulder movement, basically the upper body things. What should be your course of action? Of course, Candito recommends taking 15 pounds off the bar and deloading and progressing from there. But I think it's important on the pressing movements to get microplates. Immediately, you should get microplates, because very quickly, 5-pound jumps will not be possible, and you'll need to make 2.5-pound jumps a week. I know Candito kind of says increase 0 to 10 pounds a week, so that does include microplating, but I'm just outright saying you should get microplates for your pressing. It'll definitely come in handy later. And so let's say now you're progressing with microplates for a while on your bench pressing, but you still start stalling somewhat regularly. You stall like 2 times or something. Candito says you should start progressing every 2 weeks. So stick with a weight for 2 weeks in a row and then increase it. But I think there's a better way. So let's say this is what you're doing. You're doing what we talked about, the 3 sets of 6 on pause bench, 6 sets of 4 on 3 count pause bench. I think you should take off 2 to 3 weeks of weight from the bar. So that might be 15 pounds if you've been increasing 5 pounds a week, but more likely it's 5 to 7.5 pounds if you're microplating. I think you should add volume somewhere. This is why I talked about the Texas method before, because this helps us understand where we should add volume. So me, for example, I stalled on bench press. So what I did was I changed the 6 sets of 4 with 3 count pause bench to 8 sets of 4. So I added 2 sets of volume to the upper control day. And immediately that benefited me. I've now gotten past that plateau that I had hit, and I think that that will help for a while now. It's a little harder on Candito's linear program deciding where to add volume because you have two options basically. But I think it's more likely to end up on the control day because the upper strength day, if you add too much volume to that day, you run the potential of being sore for the control day. Whereas with the control day, you have like 4 days before your next workout. So it's much easier to tack on volume there. Another option is you could use the optional exercise slots to add volume. I didn't talk much about this before, but after every workout, you have the option of doing 2 optional exercises. And I didn't mention these in detail because I think it's smart to not use those slots for anything related to the big 3 immediately, because then you're just adapting to more volume than you need initially. So let's say you fail your bench and you notice that you have a lockout weakness. You could add some tricep work in your optional exercise slot and deload and hopefully progress from there. I wouldn't recommend using something like a close grip bench press in your optional exercises just because I think that using a barbell movement adds a lot of volume unnecessarily. You might not need that much volume to keep progressing. I think it's smarter to just use something low intensity like a tricep push down or something, because that way you're not actually adding a ton of volume and you're not increasing your fatigue too much. It's a small change, and like I said, that's the goal. And just to talk about my programming for a second, if you watched my last video, you would know that I failed my 220 for 3 sets of 6 on squat recently. So I've made the decision going forward that I'm going to change the 3 sets of 6 to 5 sets of 4. I talked a little bit in that video about why, but I also talked about it a little before in this video on the Texas method. On the Texas method, when you had 5 sets of 5, I mentioned switching to 8 sets of 3 is an option. You're getting 1 less rep, but you're getting higher intensity, so overall it's probably more tonnage. So by changing 3 sets of 6 to 5 sets of 4, I'm getting 2 more reps of volume, and I'm getting the benefit of higher intensity. So I'm definitely getting not a lot more, but a decent amount more volume overall. So hopefully that will help me break through my squat stall. But it's all experimentation, this might be too much, this might leave me too sore for control day, and if that is the case, then I'll have to reel it in, change the volume a little bit. So overall, I think Candito's linear program is a really good choice. I just think that there are ways to keep progress going more than most people realize. I think that a lot of the time I see people jump into Candito's 6-week program prematurely. And that's not a knock on the 6-week program or on those people, but I just think that some people that talk about being on the 6-week program clearly have numbers where they would almost definitely be able to keep making progress on Candito's linear program if they just made a few small adjustments to it. And that's not a knock on anyone involved. It's just I think you should keep going with linear progression as long as you could, even if that requires making a few small changes to the program. So I hope this was somewhat helpful to anybody running the program. I hope it was at least somewhat thought-provoking. I hope I didn't say anything too confusing or crazy. Just to recap the entire thing, I just wrote this, what I call Candito's linear template. And the strength days I wrote them as moderate volume, moderate intensity, and the control days as high volume, low intensity. And that's basically what it is. The combined volume of both these days spurs progress every week, over and over. So I think as long as you stick to those guidelines of the days, you're still within the spirit of the program Candito wrote. If you make a bunch of changes, it gets a little harder and harder to keep calling it Candito's linear program, and I'm not too sure if I'm going to keep calling my videos Candito's linear program because I am making more and more changes as I go along. But I think calling Candito's linear template is a good way to look at it. So again, I hope this was helpful. If you watched this super long video, I appreciate it. I hope you definitely let me know what you think down below, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.